by audio or video means as provided in this policy may participate in all aspects of the meeting, including voting on any item. Cindy, would you please call the roll?
Gonzalez Thomas,
Present.
Arlandu,
Here.
Gilbert,
Present.
Locke,
Here.
Mathis,
Here.
Meadows,
Is he supposed
Is he on the phone?
Not
Not
yet.
yet.
No.
Not yet.
I'm watching. He's gonna give us an alert.
okay, Sliger,
Present.
All right, and next I would invite Raquel to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tom, are there any items to add or remove to the agenda this evening?
Nope, we're good.
All right. Public comment. Holly, do we have anyone who signed up for public comment?
we do not.
All right, then we will bypass that. So then we'll move right on to our BPS partners, starting with Mr. Ray, the BEA president.
So far, everyone loves the new setup, so kudos. Just a couple updates for you. The District Coordinating Council had its first meeting of the year last night, and as you already know, the central purpose of the District Coordinating Council is to coordinate the actions of the standing committees within our district. I think we are truly privileged to have so many different collaborative structures. It's an opportunity for all of us. From the perspective of the BEA, these collaborative structures provide an opportunity to elevate teacher and educator voice so that we can advocate for our colleagues and most importantly for our students. This is the second year of this committee, and if I'm being honest, I think we're still finding our stride a little bit, but I'm personally hopeful that this council can be a mechanism to strengthen trust and transparency in the district. We hear from our members time and time again that they are ready and willing to give input, to give feedback, to roll our sleeves up and work collaboratively with administration. So if the DCC is something that will help facilitate that process, then I think that's something we should all be excited about. Additionally, the District Equity Committee will be meeting tomorrow for the first time this year. At this meeting, we will be discussing a potential restructuring of this committee in order to bring new lenses to some of our existing district collaborative structures. We must ensure that the diverse experiences and backgrounds of all of our students are recognized, embraced, and celebrated, and that we deliver programs, support, and opportunities that all of our students need to succeed. And now we have a roadmap for this work via the strategies outlined in the district's strategic plan priority number 2, fostering inclusion and belonging, which in my time here is arguably the clearest commitment we've made as a district towards prioritizing these efforts. So let's get to work, and I look forward to providing you with more updates on that committee throughout the school year. Finally, on Wednesday, September 4th, over at the high school, we completed the biannual ritual of preparing students for what to do in the event of an active shooter. This is something that I take very seriously, and I try to instill in my students that they need to take it seriously as well. I usually share my experience as a substitute teacher shortly after the horrific shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut, because that was the first time that I truly, fully contemplated that having to be prepared for the unthinkable was something that was inherently linked to being a teacher. I would also note that on that same day we did that drill, we had to modify our discussions for fourth block classes because there had been yet another school shooting, this time in Georgia, where 2 students and 2 educators were senselessly killed. I commend our high school administrative team for making the call to pivot, but good Lord, what an incredibly sad way to remind students of why we unfortunately have to do these things in the first place. I share this with you, the board, because I want you to know, and I'm sure you already know, that as educators, we have to think about these things. Our students have to think about these things. You have to think about these things. And that alone takes a toll. I'd like to read from something that's been circulating on social media amongst my friends, colleagues, and fellow educators. I suppose it's a poem, and it beautifully summarizes the feelings of so many of us. Every teacher you know has thought about it. Every teacher you know has a plan for an active shooter. Every teacher you know has weighed their point of fight or flight. Every teacher you know has walked their room looking for blind spots. Every teacher you know has passed their classroom to see what it would look like from the outside. Every teacher you know has wondered how fast they can lock a door. Every teacher you know has had to talk about the spread out or group together methods. Every teacher you know has gotten jumpy at least once at the sound of a fire alarm or unplanned announcement. Every teacher you know has wondered if they could be in the way long enough to prevent damage. Every teacher you know has thought about how hard it would be to keep 25 young people quiet. Every teacher you know has walked into a different classroom and noticed where the doors and windows are. Every teacher you know thinks it can happen, so they pray that it doesn't. Every teacher you know. We aren't going to settle the national gun debate on gun control versus gun rights at a school board meeting, although I'd encourage anyone who feels strongly about this to contact their legislators. But what we can do is be steadfast in our commitment to supporting every single child in this district by letting them know that they matter, we are here for them, and that they belong. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Go Bulldogs. Solidarity forever with my brothers and sisters in Vespa. Thanks for letting me speak. Good night and good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. And now I'd like to welcome to the podium, I just saw him walk in, VESPA President, Mr. Kevin Boderman.
Good evening. That was, Drew, sorry I missed your bulk of your comments. I had to pick up my wife from a meeting and drop her off. Thank you, everyone. I will be much shorter this month than I was in the previous month. Of course, as was noted in Mr. Kim's comments earlier in the week, VESPA's big news of this month was the induction of Tori Pryor into the Hall of Honor as a campus monitor. We were all very excited and pleased about that. There he is, there's a handsome man. And for those who were there, it was a nice celebration. It was nice to meet Tori's parents, and a blessing that they are still with us and his family to be on hand. How nice it was to see so many family and friends of the inductees this year. It was just a nice celebration and a nice celebration of everyone in the community that so many people were able to be on hand for that. Revitalized VESPA is also now a participant in the Batavia, I'm not certain if I get the name correct, Foundation of Educational Excellence. So we will be part of that selection process going forward, the process that selects the future classes of inductees into the Hall of Honor, as well as we're moving in to the school year, have now, I believe, all of our appointees to the district stipend committees. And I'm not going to try to name all of those because the acronyms I still struggle with those, but I'm happy to say that we have all of our appointees to those. Also, I think, and this is actually my final point for the evening, I recently had the opportunity to attend my first, and again, I'm going to be challenged with this, Batavia Inter-School Council meeting, BIC. And that was a real treat, which gives you an indication. I don't get out all that much. Mrs. B handles most of the social engagements for the family. But it was a very fascinating and interesting Saturday morning. Danielle was there, as was Mr. Kim. It was a nice opportunity to meet so many of the people from, Drew was there too. So many of the people from the elementary schools. Our children are adults now, so I don't have opportunities to meet and engage with the parents from the elementary schools as much as I once did, but it was a great opportunity, and I look forward to meeting with those folks again. And I think one of the highlights of that was the presentation that Brad delivered, which was, I think, also an interesting response to the board's May meeting, in which heard quite a bit about bullying and some of the related topics. Brad delivered a very interesting explanation and presentation related to not only the legal definitions of bullying, but also just how extensive the various schools within the district handle that topic, how the administrators within the building address those reports as they come in. And I thought it was just a very good explanation. And as Danielle can attest, and I hope I'm not taking anyone's thunder or subsequent reports.
Deleted half my notes.
Pardon me? I took part of yours.
Half my comments are gone, between you and Drew, we're good.
And it was, did you already comment on this too? Because I'm afraid I was like, it was just as I said, an interesting explanation, and it led to, I think, about an hour and 15, maybe an hour and 30-minute discussion from the various participants. So that's primary reason why it was such an interesting morning for myself. In any case, as I said, BESPA is now fully engaged in these committees. Look forward to presenting our perspective on these panels as we go forward. We had our regular monthly meeting this afternoon with the team from RJAC. It was really our first meeting for the new school year, so it was really kind of a status report on some of our activities. Brief meeting today, but as we go forward and deeper into the school year, I'm certain those meetings will be more detailed, and we'll have more in-depth things to share with you as we go deeper into the school year. That's it for me for this evening. As I said, I would be much briefer than I was last month. But thank you again. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boderman. Appreciate your comments this evening. Next up, I'd like to welcome our board ambassadors, or student ambassadors to the podium.
All right, so a lot of things, well, actually, you can start us off.
Oh, our name is Jareet, by the way.
And my name's Zara, and we're the student ambassadors.
And starting off the year, we had a lot of activities and events going on. Last week, we had the homecoming parade. It was a great opportunity for the clubs to show their spirit and pride, and lots of clubs participated. And overall, it was such a fun and joyful experience. And the marching band and color guard put up a great show.
All right, and then for some events that happened this week, we had the school assembly, as you know. I will say it was a very sad loss for the seniors when it came to tug of war. We got beat so quickly by the staff members. But it was definitely fun watching band and dance, and there was dodgeball tournament, there's choir that performed, and we even had musical chairs this year, which was new, very cool to see. And we also had the homecoming game, which was super entertaining. This is the craziest game I've seen, actually. We won 56-6. I hope Lake Park is doing okay. But along with that, we also had a homecoming. Homecoming was super fun. We had a Under the Sea theme, and I want to thank all the staff and volunteers who helped put that together. Super, super fun night, and really want to appreciate all the work they had.
We also had the Paint the Town weekend, which was an engaging way to showcase student artistic and creativity ability, and it was also a fun way to add a little bit of color to our city.
And talking about seniors, we had senior sunrise this Monday. I woke up bright and early, but it was worth it. There was donuts. All our friends came. We put blankets down. It was definitely a bittersweet moment looking back to the final year of high school, but hope this tradition continues for high schoolers, and lots of fun events this week and a great start to the school year, so that's all we got.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zara and Dorit. Appreciate those comments. I'd like to move now on to 3.3, Board Liaison Committee Reports. We'll start with Sue.
Beefy met a month ago. Basically, we always meet the Thursday after our meeting, so we'll meet this Thursday, so back last month. Basically, it was just our first meeting of the year. We welcomed some new members in, and it was just kind of a get-to-know-you process and stuff like that. And we basically talked about our Hall of Honor event that we had last week. It was a wonderful event, well-attended. We have an honoree right here in our midst. Can you wave, Amy? Tori was, honored. We had a great float. Had a trolley bus in the parade. The football game was fun. The event itself, Tom, you were there. That was your first one,
First
right?
one.
What did you think?
I thought it was awesome.
It was awesome.
I thought it was amazing.
It was great.
Listening to the history and just hearing
Yep,
the stories.
it's
of
always
people.
wonderful, and the speeches were nice and short this year. Yeah, but it was great. so.
Even Amy's was short.
Even Amy's, yeah, you kept yours, we were a little surprised there, Amy, yeah. Hey, anytime you can keep it under some past winners that were 45 minutes or so, it's a good, wow. Well, you just have to look at who was the past winners and you know. But it was wonderful. So I would encourage anyone to go to the Batavia Foundation for Education and look it up, Hall of Honor, and we're gonna open up the nominations pretty soon, so get your nominees in. So, you could be like Erin and nominate someone, and
It can happen.
it could happen, yeah. So,
One
anyways,
of the
that's all I
things I
have.
strive for. Be like Aaron.
What?
One of
Maybe
the
you'll
things
get
I strive
nominated,
for.
RJ.
Thank you.
Your nominee could win, yeah, be honored.
Thank you, Sue. Mr. Arlandu?
Yeah, so two committees, the RRAC met twice. I was able to go to the first one at the end of August, and it was more an introduction, I would say. We did go over a few items, some of the capital project, or like some funding issues and budget stuff. And then, Josh, you talked about a new way of paying fees that we might be going to as well. So I think more info to come on that. Do you want to say anything about the second meeting? I wasn't able to attend.
The second meeting was a great idea to have, but it was during homecoming week, so that wasn't a good planned event. A lot of people couldn't make it. Basically, we just shared out the feedback we got from Beck
Okay.
on the payment processing, which was very positive. So we're moving forward and looking in opportunities to do that moving forward. And then we talked about the insurance piece, which is on the board today.
Okay, very good. And then stipend committee, we haven't met yet, so I think it's coming up, Steve,
Thursday.
so, we'll have a update next month.
Thank you, Rob. Raquel?
So Plaque has their first meeting this Thursday as well. So, and then we had our policy committee meeting, where we basically went over the policy 7.180, which is the bullying. So it was a very good meeting, very in-depth, very informative. All the questions that were submitted to us were answered. And of all the questions, there's really only one that was an actual about policy. Everything else was procedure. And that policy is, we just kind of wanted to maybe include, 7.02 has, they're saying is the district will not tolerate harassing, intimidating conduct or bullying, whether verbal, physical, sexual, or visual, that affects the tangible benefits of education, that unreasonably interferes with a student's educational performance, or that creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive educational environment. So we just asked if we can include that as well in our 7.180. So all the other questions about procedures, just for everyone here, so Tom and Holly are working on a flow chart or a diagram. So as a general of what happens when a report is done. And so with homecoming week, things were kind of, people's schedules were busy. So Holly, as soon as she's done with that, she'll give it to Tom and he'll give it to us so we can look at it. All the buildings have gone through bullying retraining this year. And we also, as a board, we'll discuss how we want the dashboard presented to us, whether that's quarterly, semi-yearly, monthly, or whatever. So we can hold ourselves and as well as the administration accountable. And we can see where the trends are, if we're going in the right direction, wrong direction, if we need to maybe change some procedures to ensure that we are going in the right direction. So we'll have a second reading tonight of this policy, and then we'll have a first reading of the Title IX policy, which is 2.265. And our next, we're still figuring out our next meeting, but in our next reading, we'll go over the Title IX policy, and if we can, some other ones that, the only really changes are footnotes. There's nothing really major. And that's it.
All right. RJ?
So first of all, I was assigned to the BIC committee, and then I can't make it because of different, obligations, so I know Danielle went to, so thank you for doing that, and whoever's gonna be going to the future ones, I appreciate it. BIC is actually very invigorating, so, speaking on that earlier, I really enjoyed the BIC meetings. It's fun to see all the parents that are there, so look forward to the update. I'm now new to the insurance committee, and Josh caught me up on it. open enrollment is coming up soon, which is why we've got some important action items on the upcoming, on the agenda today, so he'll walk us through all that. So there was nothing that I really need to cover, except I did learn a new acronym, which is ERIC. And you probably, I wouldn't be surprised if you know ERIC, but ERIC is Employee Retirement and Investment Committee, is that correct?
Incentive committee.
Dang
yeah,
it,
you're
Incentive
close.
Committee. Did you know that one? I just like, to there's, I don't know the acronyms we have here, but
That's
why
right.
not throw one more on there, so, okay, and also I just wanna say, I thought you had lost your name tag for a second, you just fit in perfectly right up here. I just thought you were just normally sitting up there.
Oh,
Tony, if you're
watching.
Alright, nothing else for me.
All right, thanks, RJ. Danielle?
Yeah, so CAC is meeting Thursday, Equity is meeting tomorrow, Wednesday. So no reports on that. BIC, as we've heard about, met on the 7th, and you still invigorating. I also had that written down. But it really
can't
is,
spell
it's an amazing group. When I used to be on the PTO, I used to love to be able to be part of it. So it was really nice. As it's already been touched on, the meeting consisted of discussion around bullying policy 7180. So there was a lot of conversation, good discussion, lots of questions, open dialogue back and forth. So, a lot of the people that are there are elementary parents, but they might have middle schoolers or high schoolers, but they're representing all of the 6 elementaries. And then you do have like buffs. Stage. BSPN, yeah, because Leanne was there. So you have various voices there, and that was good. That was really good. Went for quite a while, so they had a lot of good feedback, a lot of good questions, like I said. And they moved into the cash collection process with Josh. And it was really good, I think, to have that PTO voice of like how different processes or different platforms would potentially impact them. So I know you took a lot of their feedback, and that was that part. And then they moved into updates from each like representative, and like it's just really cool because they want to get together as a community to actually like share and like, how do you do this and what did you do, problem shoot, and they're looking to get together outside of BIC to like just be more in community, which I think is really awesome. And I think one person had brought up, and I don't know enough about it, but where they wanted to do some sort of fundraiser that was elementary wide, so all 6 schools. So looking forward, I think you guys will talk more about that. Flyers was a big thing, which I'm not gonna be there the next time, but paper flyers. So you guys might hear more about that, but that was like the room got loud with that one. So it's impacting their fundraising, so I felt like I need to pass that on in a negative way, but they're going to talk with Holly, Tom, and at the next one, so next quarter. I think that's it for BIC. I was able to tour BHS, I'm the liaison there, which was really cool. I was blown away. I've only been in the elementaries. I've now dove into Rotolo a little bit. It was insane. I mean, I was blown away by the amount of various activities happening at one time. Like you turn a corner and there's this, that, and like I turn another corner and I could smell like amazing food, and it was a culinary class. I was like, what is in there? But like, and it was just amazing to hear like how many different things are available. I can't wait till my kids get to that point. And there's just, I think something for every single student. I got to go into the one room where they're doing like video and design. I think that might be new, and so they had all these video cameras, and they were recording the same thing, learning how to edit the videos, just super cool. So that was really interesting. Do you want me to touch on student ambassadors now?
Sure.
Here? Okay.
Comfortable to.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other part that Aaron and I worked on were the student ambassador interviews. We're looking for 1 to 2 extra kids. We are going to keep Zara and Dorit on. They are seniors this year, and so they will be the mentors to, did you know you're gonna be the mentor? Okay. Thank you for staying on too. I mean, so that way we went through a process where we interviewed. So how it works is the staff will nominate students, and those come forward. So I think there were like 15, 16 nominees. Out of those students, 6 expressed interest to go forward and interview. So we sat down with them, asked different questions, got to know them a little bit, and then through a process, we did come to, it was really, really hard because all of these kids were phenomenal. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. So, we narrowed it down. So next, meeting in October, we will be welcoming and swearing in, both our juniors, Grace Nelson and Kaya Oberg. So they will be working, like I said, with Zara and Dury and getting the lay of the land. And we should see, I don't know if all four will be at every meeting, but it will give us that variety of like, just in case maybe some have a performance or something going on, because they're all busy. So 2 new and then the 2 existing. And I just want to say thank you to the students all the students who interviewed, and I just encourage you guys to keep doing what you're doing, and if you are interested, didn't make it on, and are able to try again next year, please do. My last thing is not a liaison, but I went to my first football game, and it was the homecoming game. That was intense. Like, I was like, whoa! There was so much energy and excitement at that, I mean, it was amazing.
It's a thing, right?
It is. I was told ahead of time to stay away from like the south end. They're like, do not go there, you will get kicked out. It was Arzu who told me, like, don't even try, because it's like the kids section. So I stayed away. I mean, that was amazing. It was really, really cool to just see all of the parents and just everyone come in community. It was insane though. Like, I've not ever been around that kind of vibe before. So that was a good first game to go to. That's what I have for my reports.
All right, a lot going on. Thank you, everyone. So now we're gonna move on to
Darren,
four.
can we do one thing?
Yes.
Raquel, did you want to share what you, me, and Craig did?
Yeah. Yeah. So we had our interviews with DMG and Hanover Group. Both of them went well. So DMG, they're more of a business philosophy and a business model. So how we took it is they will be very direct. They won't sugarcoat things. The interview was kind of maybe more a little bit one-sided, but we did get we had a few questions. They did answer them. They sent us the presentation. They didn't go too much into their presentation. But theirs was pretty good. Their price point was $110,000, and that would go from October 2024 to March 2025. And that includes their airfare, hotels, and anything like that when they come and visit. Hanover, so they did for their presentation, they basically went over their whole presentation, answered any questions that we asked. They have more, I want to say, like resources, like the library, with our articles and so forth, like, that could kind of help us with navigating our strategic plan and how to go about it. We do think that we kind of agreed that we would ask them to, if you were doing something wrong, you have to tell us, and you have to be direct. We don't want them to sugarcoat any items. So they have 2 membership items. One is the advisory membership, and that's $87,500, and then the strategy membership was $129,000. Sorry. So the advisory one has a little bit less things that you can do, like it's limited, like who has the access to the library. The strategic one has, a lot of people can have access and so forth. So they're both pretty good. So yeah, that's about it. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
No, so I think the next steps will be to continue this conversation at this point after processing with Raquel and Craig, and we'll deliver the full depth of the information to the board, so you'll have that time to peruse the materials, and then what we're thinking is October, actually placing it on the agenda. But we do, as Raquel's pointed out, we have the information in hand, so I can send that this week. So you'll have a full month to review anything. Thanks, Raquel.
Anything else? All right, then we'll move
Eric,
on.
can I make one quick comment?
Sure.
So on the student ambassadors, we've talked about this before, was there any thought to kind of expanding the scope? Because right now it's very high school focused. Like expanding the scope so we get messages from the other schools within the district.
Yeah, we did talk about it, and we sat down with, when I was doing the tour, I sat down with Dr. Smith. they do wanna, and I think with having more kids, it might make that easy, but like part of it is you have to have transportation to the other schools if you want like to dip into like student council, or if the high school, like you're asking them to go to elementaries, to just kind of like chit chat, it might be a little hard, but where we may be able to utilize it is like when you had like the Bulldog Ambassador. Maybe if we're looking for something to get information from students or have them help, to maybe have the high school students join in with elementary and Rotolo students to maybe work on an initiative, and kind of do it that way. We did very much vocalize that we would like to hear more about it. It's really trying to connect everyone's schedules and trying to figure out what would look like, right? Because like even if you do Zoom, like if, say Dorit has A, B, and C to do, and this student has this, and you're trying to like, it might get a little complicated, but I think we've kind of made it clear that we would love to see if we can try to make something a little bit more progressive and head that way.
So is your question like hearing more about from the whole district, or like actually like having younger kids be student ambassadors?
Both, actually. I wouldn't mind. I think you talk about great mentorship opportunities. That might be a great one.
Student council would be a good place to kind of, like, if you have student council kids working with them, I think that might be a natural bridge. And that was my thought process, is maybe they can work together that way.
So we are talking about that, so I think like the first step will be maybe incorporating more messaging from the other buildings. And then that's how, I mean, it's a board committee, or a board appointed position, so I mean, something we can talk about if we want to pull in voices, from the younger grade levels, so. I will say that I think this originally went from one student ambassador, and now we have 4, so I think we are going in the right direction. But I definitely think that's feedback that's worthy of having further discussion, for sure.
Yeah, one question that we had asked is like, do you feel comfortable working with younger kids? And everyone was amazing. They listed their various experiences, just to kind of like make sure like they feel comfortable with that. So it's worth a conversation. I think we're all feeling like it would be nice to hear from their perspectives as well.
All right, anything else? All right, then we will move to 4.0. 4.1, the board will now go to closed session. We do have action items after the closed session, and everyone here is welcome to stay. If you decide to leave, we want to thank you for coming out this evening. So at this time, I would like to entertain a motion to move to closed session as allowed under the Open Meetings Act for the purpose of exception 5 ILCS 1202CL. Or did I do that right?
Yeah, I'm just noting time, Cindy, time, 1932.
Was that the right number you read off?
That was the right number I read off, yes.
You sure?
You're good to go? So you just need a motion.
Second.
So who was motion?
Rob.
Rob, second. RJ?
Mr. Mathis, please.
Cindy, will you please lead us in a roll call vote?
Can I just mention, it was a wrong motion, so if you can go into, motion, I'm sorry about that was my error. If you go under tab motion.
Okay, now I'm really getting sweaty.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about this, let me bring it over to you.
Pull out your
That's
little
right.
pocket guide that they gave you.
A little-
Do we have to-
I got my little cheat sheet.
Do we have to
here.
vote no on the motion then?
Yeah, we're gonna have to redo the motion.
Okay, so
Sorry
then,
about that.
Look really
my instinct
Sorry,
was
nobody
wrong.
voted.
I vote no.
Yeah, we'll go on that one. So sorry about that.
That's all right.
Move to do then.
It didn't feel
I
right.
move to vote.
No, it
And then I vote no.
No, but what motion did we agree on?
Oh, yeah.
What do I need to read?
This is it.
We're all like,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. It's
sounds
long.
good.
So I have to
Just a
read
minute.
that?
Let me get a
I
finger
feel so
for
much
you.
smarter now that I asked. It didn't sound right to me.
You have
RJ?
them all
Sorry about
memorized.
that.
That's all right.
Okay, can you read it now?
Yeah, I can read it now. I got my glasses. All right, let's try this again, round 2. Motion to adjourn to closed session for the placement of individual students in special education programs and other matters relating to individual students, 5 ILCS 2C10.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Arlandu, second, Mr. Mathis. Cindy, will you please call the roll?
Gonzalez Thomas,
Yes.
Meadows. Arlandu,
Yes.
Steiger,
Yes.
Mathis,
No.
Locke,
Yes.
Kilberg,
Yes. 7:56, and we have returned to open session. Cindy, will you call the roll?
Arlandu,
Here.
Gonzalez Thomas,
Present?
Hilbert,
Present.
Locke,
Here.
Mathis,
Here.
Steiger,
Present.
Everyone check in with Craig, he's still unavailable? Okay.
Nothing there.
All right, we'll now move on to 5.1, the consent agenda. According to our board policy, we designate a portion of the agenda as a consent agenda. For those items that usually do not require extensive discussion before board action, these items generally are routine, recurring, and can be grouped together for efficiency. Steve, would you like to go through it?
Absolutely. 5.1 and 5.2 is the approval of the August 2024 regular meeting and closed session minutes. 5.3 is our monthly personnel report. 5.4 is our monthly payroll and bills. 5.5 is the destruction of our closed session recordings from February 21st, 2023. 5.6 are the donations that we've received. We appreciate the donations from Ruth Coyne, from BAF, and from the Community Foundation of Fox River Valley. We appreciate their generosity. 5.7 is the approval of the required annual administrator and teacher salary and benefits report. 5.8 is the authorization to begin the development of our FY26 budget. 5.9 is the approval of our insurance benefit plans. And 5.10 is the approval of this consent agenda.
All right, does anyone have any questions for Dr. Pierce?
Yep, I have two.
All right. Go ahead, when you're ready.
Let me find them. So mine is just with the insurance. So it says 5.9, HSA, our percentage of contribution, is that remaining the same? And it's just the IRS's total is changing the total?
Yeah, so the deductible has to go up because it's a high deductible plan and we're at the minimum. So what we've traditionally done is our HSA contribution is half of the deductible. So it went up, so we're raising that up to keep that 50%.
And then do we have a savings total for the vision and health, since they're combined now?
Yes, so, it ends up being a $15,000, $15,000 savings. And a lot of that is because of the fact that we're using B-Swift. So this company is giving us a $25,000 credit because we have that benefits administration system. So the total cost is more, but because of that, we're getting more for less. And that's because, not to get too technical, but everything's done through an EDI file, so they're more confident in the data that's flowing through, so they're willing to give us money off because of that.
And these changes will go into effect, if it's
Yes.
approved, it'll go into effect January?
Correct, so our fiscal, it's a little complicated, our fiscal year is July 1st, right, through, but our insurance starts Jan 1, and that's because of the high deductible plans. The HSA contributions are a tax benefit, so we have to follow the tax year.
That's it.
Anyone else have any questions for Dr. Pierce? All right, then I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Motion by Sue, second by Rob. Cindy, will you please call a roll call vote?
Meadows, oh, I'm so sorry, Steiger,
Yes.
Mathis,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Hilbert,
Yes.
Gonzalez Thomas,
I'm gonna vote on this, even though I have benefits through the BEA, I'll vote yes.
yes. Arlandu,
Yes.
All right, we'll now move on to section 6. Tom, is there anything for you to share this evening under reports?
We had several FOIA reports, and they've been presented to you in the memo, and were granted.
Are we gonna go through the policy reading?
No, we're doing treasure report.
Okay, sorry, I'm sorry, treasure report, Josh.
Nothing new to report, everything is going typically. You're starting to see us getting our revenues from taxes. We do have a slight increase in operations and maintenance, but that's expected when we have need. needs. So nothing completely out of the ordinary.
All right, and then we'll go to 6.3, a policy first reading. Raquel, do you want to lead this? Or not? That's what's on my notes, that's for me.
Sure, I mean, yeah, the purpose of this report is to bring policies to the board for review. The board's policy reviews regular review to ensure alignment with the board's desired direction, as well as compliance with changing statutes and regulations for the state of Illinois and federal government. There's no recommendation at this time. The board will take action at the next regular meeting. The policy, there's one policy that we're bringing for review, recent press updates, and the red line version is attached. This policy will be presented for a second reading and adoption at the October 22nd, 2024 Board of Ed meeting. So it's 2.265, Title IX. Was called Sexual Harassment Grievance Policy. It's now just called Grievance Procedure, sorry. So the first reading, I don't know if you want to bring it up.
Yeah, Steve, do you want to add anything that might be pertinent for the board to consider as we go from this month's meeting to next month's meeting?
Yeah, this is really taking the new Title IX law and the federal government put forth and is finally, not finally, but it just takes time for it to come together, and so that's what this is. And with us, I believe, and certainly our policy folks here can correct me if I'm wrong, but what's going to happen is this new name has impact on a lot of other policies because, as we all know, as you look at policy, there's references and footnotes and crossover, and this name change, which really broadens the scope of the law and different protected groups, it has impact on other policy because it all aligns together. And so you'll see more policies coming in future months that are impacted by this name change, I guess is the point.
All right.
And we're following press recommendation, which is the new law.
I'll just add, this is a policy that we're going to be reviewing at our next policy meeting, so we'll have more detail to share at the next board meeting.
So is it just a name change? Is that what you're saying?
That's it.
That's the only thing? No content is changing?
The content that's changed is they did broaden the groups to be defined within the policy itself. So the name changed itself to broaden, and then they've identified a larger encompassing group that are identified as people who can provide a complaint.
Okay.
I'm trying to say it in less legal jargon, but it sounded better when our attorney came and trained us.
I think you did fine.
It's been a policy that's, Title IX has been kind of a moving target over, because it's been dependent on which administration has been sitting in the White House. There's been, legislatively, this has been driven by, federal guidelines, and so, we're once again at a point where we're changing because we have different administrations making different changes to these things, so. But this is good. It broadens the definition, clarifies, who the complainants can be and are under this policy.
Anything else for anyone? All right, then we'll move on to our action items for the evening. We're going to start with 7.1, authorize memorandum of agreement with the Boys and Girls Clubs of North Central Illinois. But before we get into that discussion, we have representatives from the organization here, from the Boys and Girls Club, and I would like them to welcome them to the podium and make their presentation. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for joining us.
So while they're sharing and distributing the materials, just a quick context intro
Thank you.
as to how this happened. This connection, just so the board is aware, this connection with the Boys and Girl Clubs leaders that are here today, thanks Liz, began with their presentation at the Aurora Education Commission. I've shared with the board that Batavia for the last 5 years has been part of the Aurora Education Commission, which was started by Mayor Irwin in the city of Aurora. And they invited Batavia because the city of Aurora is our second largest community that feeds students to our school district. One of the things that early on in my tenure, when I was listening to presentations, the question I had for the council and for the mayor himself was, when these things are happening for the Aurora Education Commission, is the city of Batavia, does BPS, all of BPS, get to benefit in it, or is it just for our kids and friends that are residing in the city of Aurora? And I appreciated the very quick response that I ended up receiving, and he said, what's good for the kids in Aurora are good for kids in Batavia, so, in all BPS. So I really appreciated that. So that prompted me then to reach out to our guests here tonight, Natalie and Liz, and they'll give you a great presentation. But they then so quickly and graciously invited me to some of our meetings and then to their Blue Star Night, which happened on May 9th, if my memory correct, right? So on May 9th, they had the big Blue Star event, which highlighted kids from all over the region that had been part of their program, all the celebrations that were happening for kids from little ones all the way to students who were graduating high school. We got to meet Abigail, right, who was your big winner from the region and moved on in their selection process across to state level, then eventually the nation. And listening to her story and the dreams that she has about what she's gonna do with her steps in her next life, her next steps in her life were amazing. So then, one of the things I just wanted to share with the board is that the reason why there was interest in this is the focus of the Boys and Girls Club is about ensuring students graduate, that they graduate on time, and have been supported in making decisions that are gonna assist them with their post-secondary life choices. Whether we're talking about career pathways, higher education. And the other part that I personally think fits so well for what we're trying to do from an equity standpoint is that a large part of their actual mission is to help children feel safe and, as in your words, says the club, more importantly, belong. And if there's anything I feel so incredibly immersed in since I've been here in Batavia, is that I do believe that we can have belonging beginning with Batavia. All right, and that this was a perfect partnership. And so anyway, when I think about belonging in the programs that we have, Beefy, Chip In, PTOs, BSPN, everything we talked about, why not add these wonderful folks here and the programs that they're bringing to the table for us and our students. So before I turn it over, I just also want to thank really quickly some of our folks that have worked really hard to make this happen with them. And I want to thank Amy and Holly and then Chris Milka and the team over at HCS. So thank you to everybody. We got to meet the team from the Boys and Girls Club. Great folks, super excited. All right, I'm done.
Well, I don't think we have anything else to say because that was pretty great.
Wonderful.
Thanks,
You're
everyone.
hired.
Sorry.
No, that was phenomenal, and I'm Liz Mo Garcia. I'm the Chief Development Officer for the Boys and Girls Club of North Central Illinois. Before I turn it over to Natalie to introduce herself and talk a little bit about our operations and local program, I just wanted to, want to say thank you. We are thrilled to be here. You know, we always have a goal of serving kids, serving more kids, serving them better. And so the opportunity for new partnerships is something we are ready just to like jump in with, with both feet. If I was someone that would jump in water, but anyway. So we're thrilled at the opportunity, and we thank you, and thank you for being so gracious and so welcoming, and the team at HC Storm is great as well. I just wanted to give you a little bit of perspective about our organization in case you're wondering, Boys and Girls Clubs North Central Illinois, what does that mean? Where are you? Who do you serve? Just to kind of give that background clarification. So our organization began in Elgin about 31 years ago. And since then, we've grown from, one building in Elgin to 35 sites throughout an 8-city region. And so we serve youth in Elgin and South Elgin, Schaumburg, Streamwood, Hanover Park, Aurora, and North Aurora, and as we move forward, now Batavia. We actually had an additional city. We served some DeKalb youth this past summer. It was a summer program, but we're working on, they're building a new school in a neighborhood in DeKalb, and once there is open, we're going to be there as well. And so you may be familiar with the Boys and Girls Club, you may not, so I might be redundant, but we serve youth in our organization from preschool through high school. And kids come to us every day after school, every day after school and all day during the summer, Monday through Friday. And we basically say when school is out, club is in. They come to us for meals, enrichment programs, friendships, belonging, social emotional support, homework help, and those are the kinds of things that we focus on and that we will be doing in Batavia. But I'll let you talk a little bit more about
Yeah,
your
I'm doing great. I'll just see you all later. It's so nice to have you. But yeah, so my name is Natalie Pollock. I'm the Chief Operating Officer. I've been working with Boys and Girls Clubs. It will be 15 years this December. And but with Boys and Girls Club of now North Central Illinois since 2017. And just truly very passionate about our mission and really identifying kids who need us most. I can sell a Boys and Girls Club to anyone. A lot of times people think that it's maybe kids that are only lower income or kids that are only at risk, but truly I think that there's a lot of students, no matter what their family background is, if they have a dual income household or they have a stay-at-home parent, a Boys and Girls Club is there for them. In the folders that Liz passed out, there's some highlights about our organizations. She mentioned a little bit of our history. And, you know, just touching a little bit on the programs that we do, we really want to offer a wide variety of opportunities. We know that with exposure, students start to find our CEO, who's unable to join us tonight. She'll tell a story of turning on their soul light. So what really excites a child or a teen and gets them inspired to go to the next level. And that's our goal, is to provide them with as many different opportunities as possible. So whether it's supporting them in their academics and ensuring that they feel a strong connectedness to their school, or exploring creative programs through the arts, providing healthy lifestyles, activities so that students are active and eating healthily and also making healthy choices. Among many others, there's leadership programs, there's workforce and career development and life readiness. We have the opportunity, a lot of times people ask, well, what makes you different from another youth serving organization? There's a lot of people out there serving kids, and something that I'm really proud of is that we are part of a national, what we call movement with a capital M, and it's our nationwide, we have 5,000 clubs. You may have seen us on Good Morning America with our 5,000th clubhouse in South Elgin. And we're serving about 3.5 million kids. That means that we have access to a wealth of resources, whether it's professional development or program curricula. So all of our programs the majority of our programs are based off of Boys and Girls Clubs of America curricula. We also integrate youth choice and youth voice, and also staff voice. So if someone loves to crochet, like, perfect, let's teach kids how to crochet. Or someone's really interested, I keep saying skateboarding, and I don't know if it's cool or not anymore, but if someone loves to skateboard, then please come teach the kids so that they can get excited about it. I think a little bit to touch on of where, in addition to what Superintendent Kim shared, for us, everything at the Boys and Girls Club is about access. Very rarely will we turn away a child, and really our goal is to never do that. And our goal is to not have wait lists. Our goal is to make sure that everyone can be a part of it, no matter what their income status is. And through our partnership with CCAP, or the Child Care Assistance Program, we'd rather count on state funding to serve those students instead of relying on families and their hard-earned dollars. I think the other focus that we're really proud of is just our impact on chronic absenteeism. This is a challenge not only in this district, but in every other district we serve. And we were really excited this past year to discover with some data at School District U46, which I'm sure you all know is the second largest district in the state, that our impact on chronic absenteeism was significant. And so we are just continuing to lean into that, and our goal is to duplicate that in other districts that we're serving. So any questions that you may have that Liz and I may be able to answer?
Your chance.
I'm curious. Go ahead, RJ.
Me?
Mr. Mathis?
I'm just curious on the attendance so far.
I'm so sorry, say
The
again.
attendance so far?
So we just started yesterday.
Oh,
Our
I don't know why I thought it started earlier at the school year. I'm sorry.
Traditionally, we would start at the beginning of the school year, but because of the quick start to our partnership, as Superintendent Kim mentioned, we met just in May. Tom mentioned.
Yeah, he's like that.
My BFF Tom and I. But yeah, so we started midway through September. We felt like that was a good opportunity for us to ramp up. And our goal at HC Storm is to enroll about 30 students, and we're a third of the way there, 2 days in.
All right, oh, that's great.
No, I was just gonna add that I'm a believer in this, what you do, because I'm a recipient of your services. When I was in the 7th and 8th grade, I participated.
Oh, you never shared.
Can I ask what club you went to?
I grew up in eastern Iowa, so Dubuque, Iowa.
Okay.
And some of my friends who I still talk to, we still talk about some of those experiences.
Oh, that's so great.
It was athletics. We played basketball on the weekends, and that's when there weren't as many opportunities as we have now. And so I still have a lot of fond memories of, we would go play basketball and then we'd hang out and do some other foosball and do other things. We didn't skateboard, it was the dead of winter.
Crochet? Did you do some crocheting?
Hopefully not while you're skateboarding.
That would be.
That's what I did, crochet, I learned how to crochet. But I just want to say that it's something I still think about, so it did have an impact. So I think this is wonderful, what the services you provide, so.
We appreciate that, and we often will run across somebody that in some way has been touched by the club, and their mom went there, or they went there, and it just, it warms our heart, like, it's the best. We appreciate you sharing that.
What's our anticipation for like further updates?
Well, it is a pilot, so we're gonna keep a close eye on how we see the program progressing and what supports are needed. It's a good question, as a board, if you would like a monthly, each board meeting just to see how it's going, or if you'd like it as part of the data report, at the end of the semester, or what you are looking for. We're gonna be keeping an eye on it, obviously, on a regular basis, and we have Mr. Milka on site as well, so. But one of the things I wanted to add
Initial
to,
thoughts.
that I think is really critical when we talk about access and reaching to all pockets of our community, what's amazing is too, that one of the site staff members is bilingual. And so I had an opportunity to see her engaging with some of the students in a language they're more comfortable with. And so I thought that was awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Tom, do you think it would be fair to have Amy just about the perspective that she has, because she's been engaging with the families? that-
Absolutely.
Just come and share a little bit about.
So here's.
Kind of recruiting the families to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. So, as many of you know, I work with our families that may be homeless or in crisis in some way. So, Mr. Milka and I have worked together as far as targeting some families that would really benefit from the program. And it's been great to be able to talk with them and share with them about the program. And then now to see their kids a part of the program these last couple of days has been exciting. So I look forward to seeing more of our kids joining. And like they shared, we're 2 days in, and every day we see more and more kids signing up and joining the ranks. So it's really wonderful and so super helpful, especially to our working parents, to know that their kids are not only getting excellent programming, but also something that they may be able to afford as well, like Natalie shared. It's great that they look at everyone and being able to serve the whole population with the CCAP programming, and there's lots of benefits to that.
I would add that about 80% of our families that we serve organization-wide attend our program for free. So only about 20% of the families that we're serving have the income level where they would qualify for monthly program fees.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any questions for me? Yes, Sue?
Who's running the program over there?
Well, they have a site supervisor. It's one of their staff members.
I can speak
Yeah.
a little bit to the structure.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
So our organization, we have a group of what we call regional directors that roll up to my position. And so we have a regional director that has been overseeing our Aurora sites, and we've sort of pulled Batavia in under our wing. And so that regional director then provides that large oversight. There's a lot of coordination between her and Amy. She is also bilingual, and then we have a site coordinator who's a part-time employee, and then there's a youth development assistant. So our ratio is about 1 to 15. So for every 15 students, we plan for one youth development assistant. And we aim to have a good mix of representation for the students, again, with whether bilingual or just ensuring that students feel like the adults they work with are representative of them. And so we have a whole oversight structure for the program.
Okay, so it's not BPS?
It is not, nope, we just come
Okay.
in and take care of them.
But I do check in on, like, I am coming.
No,
I have come and said hi and love on the
And
kids
we
and love on
welcome
the
that.
staff.
probably will drop by at some point.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Unlike Dom wanting to come on the first day, I'm like, how about second day? Let's do the second day.
Always about you, Tom.
to say hi, check it out.
No, I want to check it out.
I would
Yeah,
like to go
you should.
every day because it's so fun. So,
I think to add, really,
When I'm going.
yeah, sure.
the success of the program is truly dependent on the partnership with the schools. Our job description, this is no joke, for our site coordinators and our ops staff, it is written in their job description to make the school district or a school partner raving fans of the Boys and Girls Club. So if you are anything less than a raving fan, we are not fulfilling our job description, and that's something that we care deeply about. And it's through building those partnerships. We know that we don't operate in a silo. We want to ensure that whatever's happening through the school day, there's a solid communication pathway between the school, what happens after school, and then as the kids return in the morning. So it really is dependent on facilitating those relationships. And then, our desire would be for the partnership to grow and be able to partner with different leaders within the district to determine, I was really interested in hearing about the student ambassadors and whoever had made the comment about that mentorship opportunity with younger members, like that was just really lighting me up because I think there's so much potential for that with high schoolers. So yeah, we want to facilitate a close partnership with the district and the school.
And as, I'll just add, as we get going, we'd certainly love to have folks come by and visit. We have volunteers come to all of our club sites and do lots of different things from, crocheting, but reading to kids, just, doing
I'll be
puzzles.
teaching that session.
Career speakers. We have a lot of external partners, a lot of corporate organizations that will come in and do some type of volunteer activity, whether it's a STEM activity, or I think we had some folks from ComEd at Aurora site about 2 weeks ago, teaching the kids how to make pizza using a pizza box and tinfoil and a whole solar oven experience. And so those are opportunities where we can engage folks in the community too to participate, because really the partnerships is really key for us too.
If a board member wanted to stop in, what's the process? Would they contact you, Tom, or Mrs. Nelson, or
Hey,
Mr. Milka?
I would say let Mr. Milka know.
And maybe we could share a contact from one of our
Yeah, I
folks
think
that are on the
giving
ground.
Lily a heads up as well, or someone from our team, just so that you're more than welcome to stop by at any time, but I think they feel a little bit more comfortable when they know someone's coming. And they're also sort of trained to kind of have their eyes and ears open of, hey, I don't know who you are, why are you here?
Yeah.
So that you don't get some abrupt questions, it might set everyone up for success.
Thanks for that.
Any other questions from any board members? Tom, do you have anything else you would like to add?
No, I just thank you again. Really excited. Really excited.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you very much. We're happy to have you here. So at that point, I will entertain a motion to authorize a memorandum of agreement with the Boys and Girls Clubs of North Central Illinois.
So moved.
Can I have you read it again? I'm so sorry about it. I missed this one too.
Okay.
Okay, so
That's
if you
right.
could read it this way.
Okay, we're gonna
Okay.
take two. It is recommended that the board authorize a memorandum of agreement with the Boys and Girls Club of North Central Illinois for a discounted rate and recognize the Boys and Girls Club of Northern Illinois as a district partner in accordance with 8020 AP1 and 8090 AP1.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Raquel, second by Rob. Cindy, will you please call a roll call vote?
Arolando,
Yes.
Gonzalez Thomas,
Yes.
Meadows, Sliger,
Yes.
Mathis,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Kilburg,
Yes. All right, moving on to 7.2, approval of residency agreement. Tom?
If there are no questions, I'm asking the board to entertain a motion as discussed in closed session.
So moved?
No.
No? Are we voting?
Wait,
You lost us.
Yeah, making a motion, so,
I think he has to read it, doesn't he?
So you
oh no,
want-
yeah, you're reading it. I was just saying that as discussed in closed session,
Let's
so.
go.
All right, I didn't know if you had comments. so-
No, no comment.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the residency agreement for students A and B as discussed in closed session.
so moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Danielle, second by RJ.
Cindy will call a roll call vote.
Sliger,
Yes.
Gonzalez Thomas,
Yes.
Arlandu,
Yes.
Mathis,
Yes.
Locke,
No.
Kilburg,
Yes. All right. We'll move on to 7.3, authorize purchase of battery backup for Dana Center. Mr. Throby?
Good evening.
Good evening.
So to simplify, basically the UPS that I'm replacing runs all of our server infrastructure, that we host everything that the district is currently using. If you think about it, I had some questions about like sizes and everything. It's basically the size of a refrigerator compared to like your home ones that are this big. We've maintained one for a little over 14 years now. Can't get parts, so it's time to go, to maintain our uptime and everything, and it's quite a bit of power to push through it, so. This proposal is for the purchase of that with a new transfer switch as well, so that they can maintain and do things a little safer as well. So, you guys have any questions, or?
Is it 14 years normally the life of it, or did we just kind of extend it?
I extended a lot. We actually, this company that I'm buying through, they're very good. A lot of people in the area have actually picked them up now too. They can actually maintain the batteries and stuff themselves instead of actually having to pay like APC or someone that owns it. They can maintain it all on their own. He comes out and checks it about every 6 months and does a test on everything, and we get a nice report back saying, you know, how good the batteries are and our average uptime that we can have if we lose power completely. Luckily, we have a generator here to pick that up, but this holds everything, so it's got time to start before we drop.
Thank you.
That it?
Any other questions?
Did anyone else notice that Holly's battery is low?
Yes.
I just wanted to call that out.
I think she could use this battery backup right now.
Maybe she needs one of those.
Want to make sure.
All right, I will entertain a motion to authorize the purchase of a battery backup solution from Quality Power Solutions in the total amount of $41,983.
So moved.
Motion by Rob, second by
Me.
Danielle. Cindy, will you call a roll call?
Kilburg,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Mathis,
Yes.
Sliger,
Yes.
Gonzalez Thomas,
Yes.
Arlandu,
Yes.
All right, we're gonna move on to 7.4. Authorize a 3-year agreement for server infrastructure support, and Dave, you're up again.
So I don't know if you've heard about this on the news or not, but Broadcom purchased VMware about last year. They have been excessively increasing pricing. I started out this project with almost an 80% increase. The tech team and I worked through some alternative solutions to bring that down. We budgeted like a 30% increase. I got it down to about a 21% increase, so that helped us a bunch. And what we're saving is actually paying for what we replaced, so it's working out really well. Going with a 3-year agreement, I was able to shave off another $25K a year, so that will help a lot in the long term. So the bill did go up, but not as bad as we had planned for, so I'm happy where we're at. Some people saw over 200% increases in the private sector. It's just insane. So, being education, generally we get discounts, they don't care. So, but I think we did pretty well. So this runs all of our server infrastructure, all the automation and keeping our uptime like it is. It runs all of our servers to host Power School and things like that on the back end. The 3-year agreement let me get that $25K off a year, so. Any questions?
Questions? All right. I will entertain a motion to authorize a 3-year agreement with Broadcom for VM support from Continental Resources. The annual cost of this agreement is $110,145.92, with a total cost of $330,437.76 over a 3-year period.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Sue, second by Rob. Cindy, will you please lead us in a roll call vote?
Mathis,
Yes.
Sliger,
Yes.
Gonzalez Thomas,
Yes.
Arlandu,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Kilburg,
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, moving on to our last action item, a second reading of Board Policy 7.180, prevention of and response to bullying, intimidation, and harassment. Tom, you'll lead this discussion.
So just to kind of, I'm gonna piggyback off of what Raquel shared earlier. We had our policy committee meeting. We had provided responses to various questions that were submitted. We'd also talked a little bit on the follow-up on some of the previous discussions, and I did want to bring to attention for the board, there is a draft that Holly and Brad has worked on regarding our flow chart conversation, and that is something we'll be bringing to the board and sharing with you. We also have, Holly has prepared to show kind of, there was a discussion about what might IDs look like if there was some additional information. Specifically, I believe the conversation was about Rotol, and so Holly has queued up a picture. So this is what students have on their IDs, and with them on their person at all times, highlighting the information that we had talked about in the past. Second, let me get to my notes. The language that was discussed, we did run it past council. Council supported that language we were adding. We had that discussion as well, so Raquel, I think you had noted that. So the attorney, just for clarification, reiterated that we can reinforce that language using the content of that actual policy, which is exactly what we did. So that is reinforced in the draft form of our policy. And then one of the discussion points for the board, the data dashboard. I know there was conversation, which is really a matter of how the board would like to handle this. This was a discussion from policy. Raquel, I do believe you raised that as well earlier, and if the board would like to have a discussion about frequency of data, this is not necessarily related to the policy. Again, a procedural item, but certainly something that can be up for discussion for the board as to how often you'd like to review the policy altogether here at a board meeting. Right now, our strategic plan calls for a data review 2 times a year at the minimum. So I really, at that point, would turn it over if the board wants to have that conversation.
I wouldn't mind having it like every quarter, or like every 3 or 4 months, you know.
I would agree with that. I mean, I think if we get in a cycle and we feel like quarterly's redundant or we're not getting enough change, we can always change the time frame. But I think starting off with a quarterly review would be a good starting point.
Is this all data? Not just for bullying, it's like all, whatever we're putting on data dashboard, that's what we're reviewing every 3 to 4 months? Or what is it? Can we clarify?
Right now, I was talking about the
You said
the
policy.
conversation around the bullying
Around this.
data, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Now, as far as the dashboard goes, if we were to go quarterly, just to, Danielle, speak to that a little bit, some of our assessments, for example, if you're talking about under our domain of teaching and learning on the strategic plan, not all of our assessments happen on a quarterly basis, so there might not, you know what I mean? Like if we have our map data up, that's not happening on a quarterly basis. But like, we could always talk about attendance, right? But specifically, I know the board had interest in how often do we want to review the bullying incident reporting that was happening, so, yeah.
What would be the mechanism for how that's presented during a board meeting?
Well, why don't we go ahead and go into the dashboard conversation with this then, right? Because last month, we had presented 3 options to the board about either using vendor 1, vendor 2, or handling our data dashboard internally. To your question, Aaron, if we go with an option where the district is going to manage the dashboard ourselves, it'll look like what exactly Holly had shown you. It'll be static images taken from our five labs system, and that's what we can show you on the evening of the presentation. If you were talking, or Holly, are you pulling it up? Thank you. Thanks.
So would this then be presented during like your comments or during the consent agenda?
I would put it under reports. I think we would,
Reports?
as a team, we'd put it under reports to the board. I mean, that's just my suggestion. But seems to be most appropriate there.
Now, I know we also had a discussion if we should do it internally with the dashboard, or we should go to an outside vendor.
Mm-hmm.
Is this an appropriate time to have that discussion?
We're
So
talking
I-
about the data.
Okay, so, I've had some discussions with colleagues and Holly, and, I don't wanna speak for Holly, but she was confident that she could, at this time, do this task without it, absorbing all her time or her staff. So I feel like at this time, we should try to do it internally. And then over time, if it becomes too cumbersome, or we're not getting the data we want out of it, or we're getting feedback from the community that they can't access it, or they don't like how it's presented, then I think we could always go back and entertain using one of those outside vendors. I didn't put words in your mouth, Holly. Is that an accurate description of our
I think
conversation?
there was a time when you said, I mean, just between you and I, but no, I'm kidding.
Oh.
I'm
No, it wasn't.
No, you did not. That was exactly what we talked about, that I pulled this together in minutes. This doesn't take a long time. It just depends on how many of these little boxes, like you can see, each one of these is a different metrics, right? Or data set. So like up here, each one of these graphs that you see, and if you don't want to see it as a bar chart, but you'd like to see it as a pie chart or any one of these changes only takes a minute to put on here. But if you want to see like 30 different layers of this information and it becomes extremely cumbersome, then it'll end up looking a little bit like what you see up on behind you in that art. If you want that much, it's gonna be difficult to put together. But this is already, like, I pulled that right from 5 Lab.
So would it be hard to do like each individual elementary school and then the middle school and high school?
For each of these boxes,
Yeah, like, that's what I was asking, like, if you
Yeah.
wanted to do, like, would you just group everything together, or would you group elementaries together, or?
you could say, like, if you want box number 1 to be the district overall. You want box number 2, like, just elementary. But it depends on what level of data you want from each of these things. Each one of them is a new data pull. Like if you wanted it by a specific demographic, or by low income, or anything like that, once you start layering, that's when this becomes a mosaic of charts that no one will
Sure. Which-
ever get to.
I think is what makes the most sense about doing it in-house until we know what we really wanna see. I mean,
So with the data specific, like, to bring it back to bullying, I don't know if I am clear on the, like who's doing it, like who's deciding what data we're, actually keeping? And, how deep does it go, and is it presented here? I don't know that, like, who's doing it, or like how, what is it? I don't know that that's been very clear, so what is that gonna look like? Like,
So the data is collected by each building site, because that's what gets entered into the student information system.
okay.
And then from there, that's how we're able to extrapolate any of the data that you as a board want to take a look at.
So when it like relates to what we have to like legally do and report to the state, is that gonna be here?
That is gonna be part of Brad's community report. The data's gonna look different than what we've been doing, right? Because of the changes that the new requirements.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the Brad report? And so that's not gonna be dashboard data?
You wanna talk about the community report?
Sure. Part of the strategic plan and what that commits us to is to providing the board with frequent updates about those priorities, so that would be a part of that report. So depending on the level of detail you want to get, it would be going kind of a status update of where we're at with the data behind the strategic plan, so.
I'm not clear on what that means, I'm
So
sorry.
there's all
It's
sorts of
not-
metrics in your strategic plan,
Uh-huh,
so I have to report that back to you as to where we're at twice a year.
when I'm saying data, I guess I mean the data that we're collecting, that it has to talk about like the victims, their identification, not the actual person, but, you know, was this against any identifying factors on that person? Did it happen on a bus? Was it, like, are we going to understand that so that we understand what our bullying is looking like? That's what I'm talking about with relation to data. Are we gonna get an actual picture of what the data is? Who determines what that data is, and how deep does it go? And is it gonna be like here, or where do we?
Does the board want it on here? If you want it on the dashboard,
So that's what I mean, like, I think we need it pretty detailed at first, so we can see where the trends are.
Where's it occurring?
Right, that's my thing, is I'd rather see, like, unfortunately, that's just how I feel, it's like, yeah, like, you know, what's the bullying, like, you know, who was it against, what was.
As far as possible.
Yeah, and then, so that way we can see, okay, well, we have an uptick in this, how can we address that, you know?
Like, we know that you say that a lot of times it's those unsupervised places, like your recess, your lunchroom, your bus. And I'm not clear with the data that we have, or can we, influence that to tell us, like, yeah, this was this kind of bullying on the bus, this was this kind of bullying at, you know, on the bus stop, so that we do have a clear picture of where it's happening, how it's happening, who it's happening to. Because I don't think that from what our conversations that we understand that. And I think that's where we talked about data, is wanting to understand the full picture of it. So can we do that internally?
So 5Lab can drill down to the student it happened to, which is why we can't just put 5Lab on our website. And we can't create even a public account for people to log in to 5Lab to see that information. But that information is in there on each incident. But in order to chart it out, it can't just be like one person, what was their demographic, where this happened to them. But you can see by school or grade, or, and each of the incidents does have all of those characteristics that you're looking for. It just depends on what each report you want to see. And you'd want to see the same thing each month or quarter or biannually, so that you can see those trends. If you look so narrowly at one group or one person, you're not gonna see a trend. So my advice is to find where you, as a board, would like that level to be. Is it by school? Is it by grade? Is it by type? Is it by location? I think, so you can look at one number
Would there, I'm sorry.
each report.
Yeah.
So I think, 'cause I do think, I kind of agree with my colleagues. I like the ability to go granular, very granular. Would there be an opportunity, Holly, for you to make a future presentation where you sort of give us like A, B, C, this level, or we could go down to this, you know, like this level of granularity, this level, this one? What do we feel more comfortable with?
Sure.
'Cause I really don't know.
Yeah, it's all in there, it's just that, like, I would, if I were in your positions, I would look at, like, what is that one trend line I wanna see, right? Is it, I wanna see this going down. Is it bullying in general? Is it harassment, intimidation, all acts that are, there's all kinds of categories of them? Is it that? Are all those in total going down? Is it the number by school, is that going down?
Well, I think we're just trying to work the problem kind of backwards.
Yeah.
We're trying to find the measurement that we want to attack.
And then and then we can
Unless I'm
we
wrong.
can pull it.
We're looking for the measurement that, it's like we're trying to find the measurement that we want to know. So we won't know what the measurement is until we see all of them.
So like that's what you shared with us, and I know I'm confused about this, Tom. It's the chart that you shared with, like, it really narrows down. We can't do this, or don't we have to do this somewhere?
that particular insert is, Brad, if I recall, you and your teams have been meeting and talking about this particular spreadsheet. You know what I'm talking about, right, with the colors and grids? Yeah. So they're meeting on that right now. So this is the data set that you're talking about in terms of being provided to the board.
Right, well, because I guess like when I was reading through, like for the state reporting that every school district has to do, it has to really narrow down, like, was this a bullying incident that was against someone's identity? If so, was it their racial identity? Was it religious identity? Check, check, check. So in my head, I'm like, okay, so they're very much narrowed down. If we have to comply with that as a district, can that be, why wouldn't that be able to be presented to the board then? Because I think for us, and helps us understand, I know for me, is our policy working? Is this procedural, all this type of stuff, but, it'd really show us the big picture. I realize that like tick down very small, but if we're already having to do it,
But making it public, right? Like, so the confidentiality is extremely important. So
But anyone
once you
can-
start, like, if you say first grade at HC Storm, by this race, at this location, people can start to identify who that individual may have been.
and can we do it different? Where it does, can you do like one box if you really wanted to narrow down by a school, but not give so much, so at Storm, they're seeing an uptick in just bullying. But then you have another box where it's like, we do know as a district, are we having an uptick in bullying related to race? Because anyone can ask the state for this data that does not narrow down by school, that doesn't narrow down by like grade level, but at least I don't think that data is there. So, I mean, can we not do that separately? Or I guess they do have age, but I don't know who that's for. Is that not able to be done? I just feel like that kind of
So the answer is yes, the data is there. These, I just pulled random ones off of, this is like the standardized dashboard, right? We can say to 5 Lab, I want this specific number, right? And they can pull it and chart it year over year, month over month, school by school, whatever you want. It's just, if you begin doing that on each one of the different sections of our strategic plan, you'll end up with a dashboard that is 50, 60 different tiles. And if you're, in my humble communication experience, nobody's gonna look at it. If you put up 10, that's a little more digestible. Like, oh, I can look through these 10 things. But if I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling down a website page, because that's kind of the beauty of using one of those other companies, because the data's there and it's interactive. Like you can, ooh, this is an interesting number, I'm gonna click on it. Oh, it's gonna take me to more information. Oh, then it's gonna maybe pull a different number for me. So this is a picture, a day and time. So that's the only thing, is like, think about what you as a group want to see, and if you want me to show you 10 options of what that can look like, great. Think to yourself, though, how can we, if we're gonna be looking at this many items that are within our strategic plan, bullying is not, that is obviously an extremely important one. We also have other metrics that people are looking at on that strategic plan that they're wanting to track. Absenteeism, MAP scores, IR testing, all that kind of stuff, which they would maybe never get to if there's 50 things that they're having to scroll through each time.
I have a suggestion. Perhaps we could have a future presentation, Holly, where you do a presentation where you present to us as granular as you think your team could do, and that, in your opinion, the public would be able to digest. And then the board could review it and assess if we think that's granular enough, and then if we don't think it is, then we might need to go and look at one of these outside vendors where then people can click, and go granular. That might inform our decision if this is something we should do in-house or not.
I'm okay with that. I mean, I'd like us to consider, we just went through a update of the district strategic plan. And I see this as an opportunity for us to be a little bold here. We could go with this, which is fine if that's what we want to do, but to me, this is very similar to the look and feel of what we've had in the past. And I have full confidence that Holly would do a great job with this if we asked her to do it. But I don't want to miss this opportunity. This is an opportunity to get us, maybe to that next level in terms of our reporting. in how we engage with the community. I'm not completely sold that this will get us there.
Good point.
Holly, what's up?
The only thing is that we can look at traffic on our website easily, right? And if we throw the idea of like going simple initially, part of that is to see if people are actually looking at it. If nobody is going to that page to look at our data dashboard, there might be a little bit of, like, I personally, it would be like, we were spending money on something that 10 people used. A little buyer's remorse. Whereas if we go with this and we see like people are actually wanting to track our stuff, then we can look at feedback that people are saying like, maybe we should invest more because they want to see more.
It's a good point. I just think we have an opportunity here to take it to the next level.
I mean, so again, everyone's opinions are valid here, share them. I think, from what I'm hearing, I personally would like to see like how granular you can go, Holly, and we'll look at it, and then we'll have to make our independent judgments if that's bold enough, if we feel like this is dynamic, if this is something people are gonna be able to digest, if it's 50 slides, maybe we say, okay, then because if we were to go with one of those other vendors, we would have to make that an action item on a future agenda, correct, Tom?
Correct, but I can get direction from the board tonight. You can give me a general consensus as a board as long as there's consensus amongst all of you as to what direction you'd like to head. If there isn't consensus here, that probably what that means is you want to see something and have this as a discussion item on the agenda next month, is the way I'll take it, right? Because, again, you have a proposal on the table about us coming back, working together and sharing a presentation of what it might look like, right? I'm hearing another board member say, let's go with one of the potential 2 outside vendors to support the work on our district website. And then I did hear some affirmation about going with let's try the internal methodology, right, RJ? That was kind of your sentiment. So there's right now 3 different concepts of direction from the board right now on the table for us.
Well, I thought that mine was more aligned with Aaron here. You were speaking internally, right?
Oh, I guess, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Thanks, yeah. All right, so there's 2. Internal or look at a vendor.
I'm still not clear what data this is. I thought when we were talking about data, part of it was so that the board can have that accountability, and I think that helps. But I also know that we need to forward face for the community. So I'm still not, I don't know, maybe it's not soaking in correctly. I hear you, but I'm not super clear on, I want as a board member to understand what's going on. I don't necessarily I understand the hesitation, and truly, that is an issue. If someone can narrow down HC Storm, first grade, you can really start to understand, especially if you look at, if it is an identifying factor for a victim. But then how as a board do we use this data to actually understand what the climate is?
Yeah, it's kind of a 2-in-1 right now. We're asking to narrow down the data as much as they can, while at the same time deciding which method we're gonna use to display it, whether it's gonna be internally or with a vendor.
And does this data, is it only,
Unless I'm misunderstanding that.
are we collecting it only to display on the dashboard, or also to give us more information?
Both,
So
unless I'm misunderstanding.
So what is in 5 Lab is already in there and has been put in there by Jean Marie Crozy for a long time. That is granular. And it's just, at this point, we're deciding what of all of those millions of data points you would want to see. And in order to trend data, I think it's hard to do when you get that granular, right? If you get down to one classroom, they're all very different year over year. But if you look at the district as a whole, or all elementary schools, or all first grade classes, so it's just, at this point, we're trying to determine. And if you want to see more as a board member than what we're putting out public facing, I think we can still honor the strategic plan with 10 or 15 charts, tables, graphs, pictures that would answer where we're trending with accomplishing our strategic plan goals. But if you want to see, as an educated board member, some additional information in the background, that I think is also available.
Can I make a suggestion? I think this was rolled out very poorly. I don't think we have enough information. It seems like all of a sudden, oh, Holly's willing to do this new, do the original one at no cost, which I think any board member here would say, yes, let's go with the cheap, save money. Tom, can you come back next month and present something that's more clear to all the board members? What our options are? All of a sudden now I'm finding out Holly's willing to do this. I wasn't sure up until, I didn't want to put more work onto you, I didn't, to me, I just dismissed that one all out of hand because it was like, I'm not making you do all this work. Danielle, I truly appreciate what you're talking about, but I think we're focusing way too much on, it's only gonna be bullying data.
Well, this is where the conversation came from, our bullying
Right.
policy, and the data I was told is about the bullying.
But that's not, there's gonna be a lot more data on there, isn't there?
Yeah, but
Or is
this,
it-
I thought we had this discussion because it applies to the policy of bullying.
Right, but there's gonna be a lot more data
Yeah.
available, correct? Or am I wrong on that? I wanna
So
make
there'd be
sure
a
I
lot of
know.
metrics where we'd probably want
Right.
to
That'd
have
be more.
ability to do
Okay.
10,000 square foot in granular. So I do think, Tom, we're kind of talking about two things. We're talking about data and we're talking about the policy.
So
I
that's
think
what-
on the data part, I think we would like another presentation of like, I like the feedback, but like the 10,000 foot view is, and how granular can we get based off your recommendations before maybe we start to cross some laws, or we can get into some problematic spaces. 'Cause I know, I do get it, if you go too far enough, you are gonna be able to identify students.
And I don't want that at all.
And
Now, to be clear though, the original intent of this conversation was to honor what we agreed at the board policy committee meeting, which was, what direction is the board giving the administration on how often we present the bullying incident data? The frequency
Right.
of it. Now, you're correct in that this then broadened into that other conversation, because why would we run two different platforms for everything else that we're supposed to be reporting on our dashboard, and then just the bullying incidents? Totally fair. But, I mean, Sue, Holly created a presentation and presented this at the last board meeting. So can I just, from the board, what would you, can I get some parameters as to what you'd like my team and I to?
Then maybe just go back to the original presentation. Let's do one thing at a time then. It seems like we're doing,
Well, we're kind of conflating, so
Yeah.
I feel like what we should do, again, I'll say it again, is have Holly put together like what the high level and then the granular look at, we can review that, and then the board could say, this isn't dynamic, we don't like it, it's too much. And then if we don't feel like that's a good presentation for the board, then we could go back to an action item where we vote to use an outside vendor. Is that confusing, or I don't want to speak for people, does that sound like a way to move forward?
Holly, are you good?
Is that something
Brad, are you
that,
good with the data piece too? Okay.
is that something that can be sent to us before the next meeting?
So we could preview it before,
see, that's part of the problem. 'cause
right,
sometimes
it's a lot to
like,
digest at 7 o'clock.
You sit here and you go, oh, okay. and-
But are we good on quarterly?
I think, yeah, quarterly to start, and then we'll just have to figure out what it looks like.
That's just for the bullying.
That's just for the
correct?
bullying.
Okay.
Yes, it's
Because
just
I don't
for
want them
bullying.
Having to do all
Alright.
kinds of data quarterly.
No, and
and
like you
stuff
said, we
that-
can't do quarterly for.
Right, on map
This
testing
just for
and all
So
that.
this
All
sounds
right.
like consensus on this. Yeah.
Consensus, so consensus.
Quarterly.
For bullying.
Okay.
And then Holly's gonna put together a presentation, and we'll look at it, and then we'll hopefully get a chance to preview it so we can digest it beforehand.
All right.
Is that fair?
9 tomorrow morning.
What does it have to do with this action item?
Well, we sort
The
of.
action item is on the policy itself.
So to go back to the
Yeah,
policy,
see, that's what,
right, it got a little,
Just
we
like
got a
that
little
way
off
off.
chart there, a little off path there. So
Take out one of the items
do
first.
people have questions on
the actual policy itself and the changes presented.
I don't have questions. I sat through your guys' meeting, and I think it was really clear that a lot of the questions that we had in July, questions that I submitted, do have to do with procedure, which I want to make sure that people do understand. Because we are voting on this, and it really does not contain anything specific, like anything homegrown. It's all what has been required of us. So I just want to make sure to put that in there. And just as a board, you guys know where I stand on this issue, obviously. I mean, I feel like I've been up here explaining this, like where I feel like we have a problem. So I was thinking, so does the policy address where we have some gaps? No. So the procedure does. And it doesn't have to be tonight because this is not what's on the agenda, but I am wanting to know from each board member or as a whole, like, are we bringing this back up to ensure that we are on the same page? Because we're not supposed to be on the dance floor. We're not supposed to necessarily say what procedure is, but I do think as a board, we should be able to help, not navigate it, but kind of influence it because of the things that we are seeing. So if we're getting data presented to us, that's not necessarily policy, but, you know, we should be able to have conversations, move a discussion in a way that, we are able to kind of have a say and like, hey, you know, how's this going procedurally? And, you know, are you able to look at this different? Because of right now, we have not changed anything specific to our district besides, thank you for the flow chart, talking about the data dashboard. There's really nothing different in the hotline on the cards. There's really nothing different that's going to happen for our kids at school. And I don't feel that, I feel like it's our job as a whole, we have the board, admin, superintendent, it's our job to make sure that we've heard things, but I don't think any of our changes are necessarily addressing them at this moment. So like, are we committed to still moving forward and having these discussions, putting like discussion items on the agenda, to maybe talk about procedure or what that means for us? Because we haven't really said that. We said we're not doing policy, but so what are we doing?
Well, I think the dashboard will help with that.
It's
So
a
if we
tool.
see, right, so if we see a trend, we can say, hey, what's our procedure on these certain things? And then, you know, they'll talk about like, okay, well, since it's not working, maybe we need to do something different.
Yeah, it just some of that, like, we know that people are not, like, we don't necessarily follow up, and we know that some kids who maybe didn't feel that they were heard or it wasn't really acknowledged, they're not reporting bullying incidences. So data is not going, it's a tool. But I want to know as a board, what are we going to use? Are we going to talk about what we use along with that data? Because we haven't had data before. I think it's going to be amazing. I think it's something that we all agree that we need. But what else? You know, we've had other conversations about other questions, but those have not really, I don't think we have any implemented change.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Rob.
I agree with you, Danielle. But I would say this, I will say to me, it's a good start, you know, for those items that you just listed. And I view this really as a journey, you know, so we're gonna reserve the right to learn, get smarter, get feedback, and keep improving the heck out of this policy and the subsequent procedures that come out of it. But we gotta start here, in my opinion, we gotta start here. And let's continue with the discussions as needed. We're not gonna forget about it, I don't think so, right? We're not gonna, it's not gonna drop because, you know, we passed this policy review, so. So it's a journey, and we gotta keep learning and keep improving.
I think the flow chart too will help with it, because then we'll know, then we'll actually understand the generalized procedures and what we are required to do. So, I mean, I think once we have the flow chart, the dashboard, you know, I think yeah, we're not gonna get on the dance floor, but just we can question, hey, is this procedure actually working?
Yeah.
I think, you know, that's, because we're holding ourselves accountable as well as anybody else. So, I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna forget about it.
I just, what's holding us accountable at this point?
Well, I'll say every quarter, we're gonna review the data.
Okay.
And so at a minimum, every 90 days, Tom's gonna make a presentation. And if the data is not trending in the right direction, we're gonna hold him accountable and his team.
But we still have to have a conversation what that data actually is, because the data, if it's not very specific, we're really not going to have a better understanding, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what we're gonna have yet, so I can't comment on that. I mean, we might be going very granular, so maybe next month when we have the presentation, we'll all say, this is pretty intense data, this is pretty, we can go pretty deep.
Yeah.
So then we might say, you know, in my career, I always like to go 10,000 foot, and if there's a trend, then that's when you have to start digging deeper to find the things that are driving.
I guess just as a board, I want to stick to policy. What timeline do you all feel? Like, I know what I feel, I've been very vocal about things. What timeline do you feel comfortable? Do you feel like it's adequate to make sure that we are keeping these kids safe, that we are checking in, we're looking at everything, so that I'm not holding the same conversations every month, right? Like, what do you guys feel? Because I don't want it to be it's not a me thing, it's like an us thing, this is our job. So what do you feel comfortable with? So is it that quarterly time? When does that start? You know, when are we having this conversation? That's not this policy, but it's the procedures around this policy.
I mean, I would have to see the data. I mean, you know.
And you would have those procedure discussions with Tom, right? Like if there's something there, he's responsible for the procedures.
Right, but as a board, we're not supposed to give him individual, so I'm not having individual conversations. Right, because I can't individually tell him what to do.
Not tell him what to do, but you can share your views, right?
Any one of you are always more than welcome, as I always say, like, you know, with any of my communications to you. Feel free to reach out if you have some feedback, things you're hearing. I mean, pretty much all of you have stopped in my office at some point. We've talked about stuff.
I mean, I think it's sort of a primary, anytime someone steps on Batavia BKS 101 grounds, they should feel safe. They should feel like they belong. I think it sort of informs everything we're doing. I mean, it's hard for me to quantify. You know, anything I would get would be anecdotal until I have a dashboard of some data to make recommendations. I would gather that every single person in this room is against bullying and wants every one of our students to feel safe and secure and wanted. So I think it's kind of like the first thing I think about. Like when you I think with my kids, when my kids get dropped off for school or they drive to school, the minimum is they come home intact and safe and felt like they were valued. So, I mean, I think where the data is it's going to keep it front and center for us on a regular basis here to review metrics so that, you know, like you said, we're not really supposed to be on the dance floor for procedures, but if the things are trending in the wrong way, then obviously something with our procedures would have to be addressed, and that's where we'd hold Tom accountable. Like, whatever you're doing is not working according to this dashboard, and so that we need a response.
Right, as a board, shouldn't we have more than data? Because we know that, it's not anecdotal, we've been told that kids are not reporting things because they didn't receive a good interaction, or they didn't feel that it was responded to in a safe way. So what do we do with that? Like when we had the conversation of, do we make sure that procedurally we have a safe person going with every student? They have an ability to say, I want this person to go in with me, right? Whether it's a teacher, whether it's an aide, whatever it may be, you know, that's procedure. So are we on the dance floor? And again, I don't think this discussion lands here for this policy, but when does it? Because I feel like I've hit barrier after barrier, and I think you guys hear me sometimes, but I believe that every person here cares about our kids, but we are comforting the wrong people. When we're saying that there's been enough done, it's not. Our jobs aren't done. I don't feel like my job has been done. I don't feel like anything I have accomplished has changed any of these kids' life or has any influence on that. And I do have hope going forward, but we've seen this before. I've been to board meetings before where I'm not just gonna say like we're working on it or we hear you. So are you interested as a board in making sure that is done? And it can't just be data, because the data is not going to be a full picture.
I'm definitely interested, yes, to answer your question.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're interested, what are you proposing?
I want to hear from, it's one-sided. It's been me talking about different things, and, kind of getting the pushback on various things of why we can't do things, or this doesn't belong here. So I understand that this conversation doesn't belong in this policy, which we should be limiting to. But when do we bring the conversation? I would like, as a board, for us to decide, when are we? And if it's the data point, cool, but I think we should also determine what else would go into that conversation.
My thoughts were, once we look at the data and if we see a glaring obvious point, and we say to Tom, this is something that we think your team needs to address, Tom is gonna be the one that tells us what they're gonna do about it.
Right.
And then,
So how do you feel when kids tell you that they went into report bullying and that they came out of that room feeling less safe? What do you do as a board? What do we do? Right? That, are we on the dance floor? And if you have enough kids that have said that over and over, where they're like, and we sat at a big meeting and we had clinical professionals who said, you need to have a safe person, right? Like, what you call safe may not actually be who's safe for a kid. You know, you ask a kid, is there a safe person? They're gonna feel like, yeah, I have to say yes. But does every kid have someone who they truly, maybe not their counselor, maybe it's not their actual teacher? Do we give that option? Because right now, we know of cases where the kids did not have a safe person pulled in with them.
Well, I think Tom went to the big meeting, and in that policy meeting, he said that he's looking at things.
I thought it was a great point that the parent
Yes.
had raised.
Yeah, and he said a lot of the things from the big meeting, he said that him and his team are gonna look at and reevaluate.
I guess I'm nervous on the we're gonna look
Possibly.
at, and it's nothing against you personally, it's after years of being involved and listening to these meetings and listening to these kids, we're gonna look at it. We're gonna talk about it. So what are we doing to hold ourselves accountable, is what I'm asking. Besides saying we're gonna get data, I'm just saying, as my opinion, I'm gonna leave it here. You guys can, proceed forward as you will. I've exhausted my efforts on trying to explain why we need more than data and why the things that are in place right now are not meeting the needs where I think we need it to keep our kids safe.
I think what we're doing to be accountable is having you on this school board.
Thank you.
And
I'm exhausted by it,
I'm-
RJ. I can't keep coming up and
think
doing,
if-
I just can't,
I'm
so.
not screwing around at all. You keep asking us what's next, and that, I mean,
That's
geez.
not,
But I think,
I'm not joking. I mean, if you're doing that and we are like pushing and trying and doing the next thing, and let's say an agenda comes up and we didn't have it on there, and you're like, why wasn't this on there? And we have it on there, and now we talked about it. I know you can't do it all.
I've already done that.
I know, but if you said we've only done this, and this, and that we haven't done a lot, but the stuff that you listed off is change, and it's change that's moving forward in another direction. So as long as it keeps happening, whether it's incremental or not, as long as the discussion keeps happening, that's an improvement over anything.
I'm one person with it, and we're a board of 7, so it's not only my voice, it's everyone's voice that matters.
Yeah, but the thing is, asking questions doesn't mean that people are gonna have answers to it. We don't have answers.
That's okay,
But
yes.
we're not like, it's not as if, I shouldn't speak on everyone's behalf. I haven't given up. It's not like I think data is the only answer, but it's where I'm putting my eggs in the basket right now. I'm like, I wanna see the data, and I wanna see, is this where the main issue is, that we at least know of, that at least students have said, whether they're students that aren't talking or not? Cause I said it, even if we get reports that say there's no problems anymore, we know that students aren't saying anything. We know that just because everyone says everything's great, that's not true. But if some students are at least saying something and someone's at least speaking up, let them then be the example for the students that aren't speaking up, and we'll help the ones that are speaking up, and at least help them, because now the students that have spoken up have shown, hey, look, they're actually listening to me. So we see the data, we see the reaction, or we see the action that Tom and his team take, because we're in the balcony, they're on the dance floor, they take it. We see the data go up, now maybe we'll get other responses somewhere else. I don't know.
What have we done that makes it safer for any different for kids to report anything, though?
That's the future.
So us
Well,
saying.
the future change can't be passed,
But
we have to
what
change stuff
change?
now.
Besides us saying we're gonna have a data dashboard, what change have we made? Because we didn't make policy change, which I understand.
You're asking me to talk about like what the future's gonna be.
No, I'm saying what change from the discussions we had and the questions that we've asked. No, you don't have to have a crystal ball, but like, what have we talked about and been like, yeah, Tom, we would really like you, we think this is missing?
I think one is we're having a flow chart diagram. Two is all the schools went through re-bullying training. Three is.
Who did that incorporate, all the schools? The deans, the principals, all the employees?
And the teams of teachers have been getting their trainings as well to refresh themselves on how to make sure kids know how to report things, if they're talking to parents, stuff of that nature. I do want to share, like, there are a couple of things that I also want to highlight, and I get it. Some of the things that one of the ideas that I'm going to share right now is a long-term thing, but I also have something I want to share that's something that you already approved last meeting that's moving forward in response to adding to supports for our kids now. So you approved last month family counseling services. That agreement in itself, and as we discussed with our big parents, we're really happy to hear that those services will be embedded in our buildings. And when families or students need that support, they're there. One of the questions I was asked by one of our parents was, what happens if the family doesn't have the resources to financially afford that support? That's why you approved the contract. That's on the district. We're taking care of that. So the kids have that regardless of any economic barriers. Now, great feedback that came out of that conversation was also, have you considered that when you procedurally might have like your counselor or social worker that the school has identified as being the safe person for that child, is that necessarily the child's safe person? I thought it was a great point. That was a point that was raised. That's something that we wanted to take back to the team and talk about. On the long-term side of things, the Boys and Girls Club is a great example of what we're trying to do also systemically. Providing resources and opportunities that will reach kids. It's literally their mission. If you go to their website, you just heard them present on it tonight. So I think you have to really approach this from multiple fronts. I think when people are really invested in doing this work, where it gets frustrating is because we want these things to happen immediately to kind of better everything as a remedy, as a medicinal thing, right? As almost a medical diagnosis of what's wrong with where these situations are coming up. And I think what we have to remember is like, we're continually working on it. We're always going to be growing and learning how to do things differently or better. I mean, even from an instructional, let's just quick aside to a different topic, instructional practices. We are constantly looking at that as well. I mean, we just had all of our EL teams and administrators receiving training on how to look at what co-teaching might look like, right? And reinforce and strengthen some of our practices from a supportive co-teaching model to a more collaborative, integrated co-teaching model. We're always trying to get better at what we do. And I think this is the same thing. And it's not because people don't care. I don't think that's true of anything or anyone that I've worked with or talked to, including this Board of Education. So those are two tangible things that I just would bring forward and saying, like, what are we doing? What are things we're doing? Those would be two things right out of the gate. I'd say, we're doing it, and you as a board, your role, you approved the contract based on the administration's recommendation, right? That gives us then the resources and the ability to move forward with our buildings and do that work. The other thing I'll say is the Panorama Survey, helping us establish a baseline from student voice about how they feel social emotionally, how they feel from a sense of belonging in our buildings. That's now going to be student reported. I don't know if it hasn't been stated enough maybe how important that is, that our kids are going to tell us how they are doing. It's not going to be reported by adults who only see them in certain periods of time, right? And again, if you're looking for an action, that's a great step in the right direction, right? Again, on a journey, I'm going to steal what you said, Rob. It's a great step on a journey to continually getting better at what we're trying to do to make kids feel like they belong here and feel safe to come to school. And do what they're supposed to do, which is learn and grow, right? So those are just, off the top of my head, a few examples, that I want to kind of bring as a highlight as to how this work does continue. Board, I know it's hard sometimes, I agree, there are times that you absolutely can influence how we're thinking about some of our procedural aspects. I think there's times you should ask us those questions, right? No one's saying you shouldn't. But I think slightly dismissing your role and impact because the things that you allocate to us to do is actually one of the biggest things you're charged with as a Board of Education. Our teams can't go and get these personnel and supports for our kids and our teachers and our support staff without your authorization. And that's the role of a governing board, right? And I'm sorry if I'm being redundant, because I know we've covered these in our board retreats and stuff like that, but I think it's maybe just a good reminder that sometimes your direct action is at a very high altitude that allows everyone else to go do what they need to do. Without saying we shouldn't talk about procedural things, like, we have that still, but I don't know. That's my piece, so.
I mean, I think, since you went to the big meeting and you told us about it, you can, you know, in another next month or in a couple weeks after, like, Tom, I think any one of us can say, hey, Tom, did you ever think of what's going on? Did you ever have a safe person in there with the victim? You know, did we implement that procedure that was brought up at the big meeting? I mean, I don't see any issue asking about that, because even Tom even said, like, he took back numerous things to the team, and we can follow up with that. I don't see any issues with that.
You've heard from everybody. I mean, even Kevin Boderman made comment to it. It was a long, lengthy, good discussion. I mean, Brad was present for it, and, you know, I thought it elicited a great conversation with our representatives, so, yeah.
So just so, are you clear, so we're, your direction, because you've gone all over the place. I want to make sure that we're giving you clear direction. On the first part, I'm even getting confused. So we agreed that a bullying report every quarter, correct?
Now, we're already kind of like
Past that.
through the mid window of Q1, so can I talk to my team and see
Yeah.
because we're already currently working on what that data reporting structures need to look like so we can get that data to the state. So we'll look at how we're gonna put that in a consumable format for the board. How about that? I think that's part of the conversation, what Holly's point she was driving is, what we present on the dashboard has to be consumable to the public, right? So, Q2, but we'll do it on a quarterly basis.
Okay. As quick as possible, I would say.
I mean, well, when she presents us next month, that can kind of just be a rough draft of Q1, right?
Well, it might have data in it.
Well,
It's
I
more
mean,
the
we'll
format, I think.
share with whatever data we might have in our systems at that point.
If that's an unreasonable ask, then you have to tell us.
I'll let you know.
And it doesn't have to, I mean, yeah, that's fine. I would say she can do a general one, not as granular, and then she can say, well, this is a general, but then here's a granular one of what we want, maybe not necessarily the data.
It says, yeah.
That makes sense.
And then, any more comments? I don't want to cut anyone off, so if anyone has any more feedback they want to share before we move forward with the vote on the policy?
Nope.
This side table? All right, good discussion. I'm gonna have a motion. I will entertain a motion to adopt the changes to policy 7.180, prevention and response to bullying, intimidation, and harassment as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Raquel, second by Rob. Cindy will call a roll call vote.
Arlandu,
Yes.
Gonzalez Thomas,
Yes.
Sliger,
Yes.
Mathis,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Hilbert,
Yes. All right, moving on to the next, staff and board comments.
All right, Laura, I just want to reiterate one more time how excited I am that BPS 101 and the Boys and Girls Club are forming this relationship as a pilot year for this year and seeing how we can grow this and move forward. And again, thanks to all the hands that went into making this happen. Secondly, I did want to just say thank you one more time to the dedication and service for those who are inducted into the Hall of Fame. We had 3 of our own active employees that were inducted. You saw one tonight. And I just want to say with gratitude to Amy Nelson, Greg Bowler, and Tori Pryor for their service. It's definitely been a privilege and a pleasure for me to get to know them as I've been spending my time here in this district past year 1 and going into year 2. And if you ever get a chance, you should watch how all 3 of them interact with their colleagues, with the students and families, and how they support this district. They're amazing people, so I appreciate them. And then on a final note, I just hope that we can all join in separate, because Drew and Kevin take most of the thunder. I've struck in through my notes. On a final note, I hope we can all join and support those who are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month and the rich history Hispanic and Latino cultures have contributed to our community and the King County region. There's a big presence and influence, so that's all I have for tonight. Thank you for all the discussions. Appreciate you.
All right. Board comments. We'll start with Sue.
Nothing, thank you.
Tom, Amy, oh, she's gone, and Holly, great job with the Boys and Girls Club. Enjoyed hearing that presentation and wishing great success with that program, because it will definitely make an impact if it's, the kids involved. I had the opportunity to go to Grace McWayne and attend their PTO meeting, which I found very well run, very organized. They were on topic. They have a lot of great events. I'm gonna invite Raquel to a trivia night. I think they're planning.
She's a ringer.
No, we're gonna go head to head, I think.
Okay, all right.
So more details to come on that. And then I guess just, homecoming too. All the festivities were great. I was able to see the parade right out here at this corner, and I thought it was very well done. So great job by the students, staff, everyone that was involved in that. So it was a very good time. And then one last comment about the dashboard. What I saw, and I get it, the initial outlay is maybe a good place to start, and I get that point. But I think we have an opportunity here. We spent a lot of time on a strategic plan. We want to engage now. That dashboard looked very similar to what was on the site 4 or 5 years ago, and the history there is evident. You can look at the data, I'm sure, on the data, but so just my thoughts on that, to keep that in mind.
All right, so yeah, happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Also, September is National Literacy Month, so I encourage everyone to continue to read, further your knowledge, to learn about different cultures, people, and places. Thanks to the IT professionals, even though yesterday was your day, but better late than never. So just thank you to all the IT professionals. And then September is also National Suicide Prevention Month. And so last year, I discussed with Tom how Batavia could be a little bit more proactive in helping our students that are dealing with inner turmoil. And then when we also had the bullying discussion, so I kind of shared the idea from the neighboring district about putting the National Suicide Hotline number, 988 call text number on the back of the student IDs. And, as we saw this year, we have those on the back of IDs. And I just think that that's something that we all can be proud of. If it can help one child, I think that's really good. So I think we should all be proud of that. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Mr. Mathis.
Today's also, I think, National Citizenship Day. I know my mother-in-law, who became a citizen of the U.S. a few years ago, brought her granddaughter to the room where she was sworn in as. Just adding to all the other national days, or all the other things we're celebrating this month. So happy Citizenship Day to anyone. That's harder than I think it is to say. Is anyone following the King County Cougars? They're like in the championship, in case you weren't aware. I think their final game is like today or tomorrow. They're in the American Association League, and for some reason they're playing against Winnipeg. So go figure that one out. But
National Citizenship Day.
yeah, on national. No, that's all. Just nice talking to everyone today. Have a great day. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mrs. Sliger? Follow that.
Yeah. I don't know, no. I don't have a day to add in, I don't think. I think we've Hispanic Heritage Month, but no, I don't have anything else to add to that. Thanks for the additional knowledge, RJ. Appreciate it.
All right, and then I'll just close up. I always like to thank everyone who attended our meeting and everyone who reaches out or emails the board. We value your input. It's essential to the work we do. I want to echo homecoming. It was fantastic. The energy at every event is, Danielle talked about the football game. It really energizes you when you get a chance to interact with the kids. Hall of Honor, I was part of that team that helped make those selections and was at the ceremony. I'll read their names because they were inspiring. Pat Branson, Kenneth Larson, Kathy Dremel, Dr. Brittany Bernardoni, Tori Pryor, Greg Bowler, Stevie Hopkins, Amy Nelson. The theme of the night was building bridges, and what was great about that night is I got a chance to meet almost all their families and their friends, and you really can tell the impact someone has by the company they keep. And it was really impressive and inspiring, and I will say that we do have 3 of them walking in our halls, and so I would just, you can learn a lot by watching people, and there are these programs in the lobby, and I think there's a presentation you can watch, so I would encourage everybody to read it or watch the presentation and learn a little bit about these people, because what was great about the night is we had doctors and disability advocates and people that kept our buildings safe and warm and dry, and community leaders, and so it was really a broad section. So everybody's has a different path they have to go, but everybody can make an impact. And I thought that was really a great example of it. I also want to thank Jeannie Gaspar. She sort of helmed that whole endeavor. It was a lot of work. It's a lot of, we had someone from Alaska that got inducted that we had to track down that came. And so I just want to thank Ginny for her efforts. And then we're mentioning all these special days, and so I do want to mention that there's a very special day for Mr. Arlandu. It's his birthday yesterday.
Yes.
So I want to say happy birthday to Mr. Arlandu.
Thank you.
And also congratulations to his daughter who won her 100th tennis match last week. I think only 11 Batavia athletes have accomplished such a feat.
Oh, thank you.
So I congratulate her. And then, again, just everyone at homecoming, I hope everyone had a safe, fun experience. So with that, unless anyone has any more comments, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Raquel, second by Sue. Third by RJ. It is now 9:33 p.m. and the meeting is adjourned.
I think Brad was like.
Oh, did I miss the vote?
Yeah, we didn't vote.